We're back. Hey, y'all. I told y'all I was coming back with our next beautiful speaker. Before we get into it, I do want to shout out our sponsors for today. Shout out to Getty Images, who has sponsored 50 free portfolio reviews. Like, how amazing is that? And they're just going to keep giving us more. And the cool thing about that is, like, so many Black women photographers have actually gotten jobs because of these portfolio reviews. So we are truly grateful for Getty Images for doing that for us. And I also want to shout out to Adobe again, who not only are sponsoring this event, but is also sponsoring our giveaway. We're giving away the Adobe Creative Cloud, which includes all of the apps that you could need. And then also the Adobe Photography Plan, which includes Lightroom and Photoshop. Like, how incredible is that? So to be entered into the giveaway, all you have to do is use the hashtag BWP Summit and tag us, Black women photographers, on Twitter or your IG stories to be included. So y'all get into it, and let's get into this conversation with the wonderful, the illustrious Naoe. How are you?
Good morning, and good afternoon to some of our UK viewers there.
Yes, we got some people in the UK, some people in Atlanta here. Like, all the time zones are present right now. So yes, good afternoon to everybody else. Naoe, I'm so excited to get into our conversation. You are an incredible filmmaker, an incredible cinematographer, and I want to talk about your journey. Can you let us know, like, where you're from and where your journey begins when it comes to cinematography?
So I'm born and raised in Inglewood, California. Inglewood. And I actually started off as a photographer at 7. I picked up my dad's 35 millimeter film camera, and I just went from there. I was always the girl with the camera. So at school, just wherever I was, I had a camera. And then in 2012, I believe it was, I was like, they came out with DSLRs, and I was like, it's like my camera. Let me try it out. And so I got a used Canon T1i off of Craigslist, if anybody remembers that, for like $200. And I was like, okay, because it had video capability. And I was like, okay, let me see if I like this and if I could do this. And I told my friend, I was like, so I got a camera, just let me know if you want to play around. And the next day I was shooting their music video. And that was the start of it.
Yes. So your first start was music videos. Did you do that often, or was that a one-off?
No, I did music videos, documentaries, short films, and this is all with like DSLRs up until recently. Yeah.
Lovely. How recent is that? Like, how long were you just trying out, like, DIY, doing your ideas before you got to, you're like, okay, now I'm working as this full time?
Well, I've always been doing it full time. I did, do the corporate thing, for a minute, but I always had photography as my side thing. Yeah. I left corporate America in how old is my child? My youngest. So I left, actually, it was 9/11. I was like,
look at that.
I was actually working in a building next to the airport. And I was actually pregnant with my youngest. And I said, you know what? I'm leaving here. I'm going to go get my babies. And I just never went back to corporate America after that. And I was like, if something's going to happen, I'm going to be doing what I love. So.
Yeah. I love it. Congratulations. Because what a feat. I love that for you.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So I'm curious, how did you find cinematography then? Since you started off with photography and you came to this, was it your love for music videos, or like what really was the catalyst for it?
Well, I was also the movie girl. I went to the movies every weekend with my parents. And I saw on average 4 movies a weekend.
That's
Yeah, it's crazy. And so I always went back to school and was telling them about the movie and, you know, what happened in the movie.
yeah.
I even had a part-time job at, you know, Blockbuster Video where I got to watch movies in the back while I prepped boxes. So I don't know if you guys remember Blockbuster Video, you actually had the boxes. And
Of
so
course.
they didn't just come like that. So I, you know, was fortunate enough to sit in the back, prep the boxes, and watch whatever movie I wanted while I was working. And also got to take 5 movies home a day. So I just had imagery just coming to me. But I just didn't know that I could do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when that DSLR came out, I was like, wait, you did that with the camera that looks like mine, you know? And that's when I tried it. Yep. And
That's
that's
so cool. About Blockbuster, I did not realize that someone had to like put that sleeve in there to prep it. Like, but of course
and
they
the
did.
tape. And the tape.
And the tape. Like,
Yes. So they came in the nice little pretty boxes that if you were buying it, you know,
right.
but to put it in that rental box and then yeah, it was a whole thing, girl.
Man, blessings to you, praises to you, because that's a lot of boxes. And I mean, I thought I rented a lot of movies, but 4 to 5 every day or every
Yeah.
weekend, you said, like,
Yeah.
ooh.
During my shift, I watched movies. And I still, it's crazy. I do that now. It's like, yeah. So I didn't technically go to film school, but I consider that my film school.
Yeah, self-taught. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I'm interested because like you said, you know, you are ingesting all of this information, all of this imagery, and you're like, well, clearly this is a job, but I don't know that I can do it. I don't even know like the steps to take to get
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
Tell us about like, I don't know if there was someone who served as your representation when you were like, oh, that can be me too, or if it was just like your process,
Wow.
like to get there.
I rarely saw women or people of color
Yeah.
on those BTS photos. So I didn't know I could do it, but I was like, okay, we're doing it on the small scale. So I know it could be done, but how do I get there? I didn't know. I didn't know there was a union until like, you know, a few years ago, you know,
Yeah.
to get on these jobs. Like Marvel sets. You know, I haven't worked Marvel gig yet, but um, yet, but to work on these movie sets with the stars that I grew up watching, or even like currently watch, you know what I mean? I didn't know, so that's why I put myself out there now because I don't want to be the unicorn on set. Even to this very day, sometimes I'm the only woman of color or person of color in my crew.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that doesn't have to be because I've been on other crews where the whole set is black.
Yeah.
So it can happen. We're out there, but just to get to those other, you know, those other movies, you know, like I didn't know there was a Julie Bash, or you know what I mean, until I actually met her. Like I sat next to her at Ava's screening. And I was like, "Hi, what's your name?" And she's like, "Julie, I'm a director." And I'm like, "Why have I never heard of you?" You know what I mean? So it was like that kind of thing. And I'm like, "So they're here, but where's the work? And why don't I see?" You know, it was like that kind of thing.
Right. So clearly, like, there's a disconnect of showcasing Black women in particular
Mm-hmm.
doing the thing that our counterparts are doing all the time and like being represented for, which then serves as like a discouraging thing, I think, as a Black woman trying to do something where it feels like, oh, I must be the only one because I can't find them. I don't know where to look to find these Black women in these spaces that I also
Mm-hmm.
part of, but we
Right.
are there.
Yeah.
So what steps did you take, or even like that you're taking right now, that help you put yourself out there so that people
Um, Yeah, just being online. I think that was the game changer. Like Instagram, Facebook. Before that, Black Planet. Like I am dating myself with the social media, but just knowing that there were others out there, um, and just recently, like Polly has made, Black women photographers. There's also 600 Black women, which represents the Black women that are in the union.
Mm-hmm.
And we're less than 1% of the total membership across the nation, which, when she created it, there were only 50. So it was less than less than 50, half of a 1%. It was like some crazy number. But yes, now we're up to 100. And we're just, working on getting more of us in there.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because similarly, like I only learned about the union a couple years ago. But the union I learned about was Local 476, and Local 600 is for cinematographers, correct?
Yes, for the camera department.
Right,
Yes.
camera department. So can you tell us like how you learned about that and what steps you took to get into the union?
Yeah. So I in 2016, I just had some, personal things happen, and that took me to a place where I was unhoused for 3 years. And I was like, I was always independent, like I said, but I was like, there has to be more. How do I get to that? And so I spent that time, learning. I went to Pepperdine for entrepreneurship, just taking advantage of what was there in that meantime, like doing writing classes. So I'm a published poet as well.
Yeah.
And just working on my voice, actually, to be able to hear to speak with you guys, because I was always in the corner, in the background, and that wasn't serving us as a community. You know what I mean? Like I said, I didn't see anybody that looked like me, so I was like, I have to do something different. But fast forward, that took me to a program called Manifest Works, because I went with the mindset, I don't know everything about film production. So I'm going to learn from the bottom, which is a set PA. And this program actually trains you how to, be a set PA, office PA, and work effectively and be indispensable. And so this program, Manifest Works, anybody that's been impacted by homelessness, foster care, or incarceration. You don't actually have to be the person that had it, but if you've been affected by it, is eligible to apply for this program. And that is what got me onto union sets. So my very first feature union set was with the illustrious Denzel Washington, and Rami Malek and Jared Leto. Like, so my first out the gate on a union feature in the camera department was with these three Academy Award winning people. So
yeah,
I'm very fortunate.
That's amazing. I'm just putting that link in the chat for anybody for themselves or folks that could utilize that as a resource. And man, I like relate to your story about like finding the union and getting in, because the program I was in was in Chicago called Cinecares. Shout out to Cinecares and to Manifest Works, because we need resources like this to get Black and brown people on sets, which that was the whole mission for Cinecares in particular. And so through that program, oh no, it says the website is down. Thanks for calling.
It's manifestworks.org.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll make that change right now. Thanks for that call out, Elsie. So it's like programs like this that help us get on sets, help, and similarly, like they taught us how to be a PA, and then in different departments, like what it really looks like, and all of the positions that are in each department, and getting that exposure so that when you can get first like your short film jobs and your other PA jobs on like maybe smaller projects or indie projects, to the point where you can get onto a bigger film set. Mine wasn't a film, mine was a show, but it was still like a really big show. And it was like one of the greatest experiences I had to, like, I guess on one end, put something on my resume for folks to be like, oh, okay, like you actually do this work. Because the thing about it, before those moments, you actually do the work, but no one can find you. You know what
Right.
I mean? And so it's like
Exactly.
having these processes or resources that help us get in the door are so, so important. So yes, please guys, like share that, especially if you know folks in
Yes.
LA who need a resource like that, because they
Yeah.
should help Black and brown people.
And I also want to shout out some other programs. I'm
Yeah.
partial to Manifest Works because I am also a board member of Manifest Works now. But there are other programs that do serve the you know, Black and brown underserved community. There's Novak in Louisiana. There is Streetlights. And there's also Hollywood CPR. I know there's Made in New York as well. I don't know if they're still operating, but at some point they were. But those are the programs that I could think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because, like we mentioned earlier, like we got all of the time zones in the chat right now, and
Right.
considering this will be recorded, like I'm sure there are people from all these spaces that could really use it, or at least research it and help a friend, somebody else they know, right? Like
Yes.
Dina said, come through resources, um, which is, I mean, truly the power of women's spaces, but especially Black women's spaces. I feel like we always try to be a resource to each other. So I'm really grateful again to have you here to give us that. Like you just gave us a full list covering the whole country. Like, come on. But to jump back in, like speaking of the union, can you talk a little bit about like how this writer strike is impacting you, or if it's impacting you at all?
I mean, it is impacting me because I'm not working on any union
Mhm.
jobs right now. Um, I'm still working on, either commercials or um, interviews, for like awards that are still happening because some award shows have been shut down. But anything that doesn't involve a writer, um, I can still work on. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Shout out to the writers. We definitely support you guys, and I hope they get
Mhm.
all the things they're looking for. Um,
Yeah. And, also, I don't know if everybody's aware, but SAG, which are actors, they've authorized for their members to vote for a strike. Um, so that's coming up down the pipeline. And also, soon after that, the DGA's contract will be expiring, and we'll see how that goes. So, yeah.
yeah, sending a lot of love to our writers, our actors, and truly like the entire set, because of course it's going to impact everybody.
Yes.
If we can't make our films and our shows and have our
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
we have, I'm sure the BWP team is writing down what you mentioned before, but I want to just jump in real quick because Dana Wilson says, what was the resource for Louisiana?
Novak, NOVAC. So it's New Orleans video. Ooh, Stevie Rain is gonna get me. Uh, she's gonna give me. Now that young woman, I just have to give her like a virtual hug.
Yeah.
Um, she has put so many Black and brown people on sets across the nation. And she's just getting started because she's like in her 20s and she's doing it for the culture.
Come on.
So these shows with Issa Rae and everything, like if there's a Black and brown person on set, is probably because of her. So,
Mm.
so big up to
Yeah.
Stevie Rain. Yeah.
Hugs. Come on.
Yes. And she did that all the way for me in New Orleans. So that's what she's not in Hollywood. That's the funny thing is she's not in Hollywood. So her reach is far and wide.
Come on, a testament. The power of Black women every time.
Yeah.
Okay, so jumping back into you,
Mm-hmm.
and what you create and how you create. I'm really interested to know, how did like finding these gigs look like for you in the early days in comparison to now? Which I mean, I know you're in the union, so like there's that, but how did, especially
No,
young cinematographers in the chat or in our audience?
yeah. Actually, it's not really different. It really is about your network. Um, it really is. Um, there's like really no interview process. I mean, you might have a video check like, "Hi, nice to meet you," but rarely, like I said, like I told you in the pre-call, like I
Yeah,
got a call and was like, "Hey, are you available this day?" Yes. Okay. And then like it just happens like that.
yeah,
It's really not any different. Um, and the day before that, I actually got a call to fly out to Vienna, and I was like, I can't. I was like, I cannot leave for Vienna tomorrow. But it was a you know it was a real call because they said so and so referred you, and I was like, okay, so this is not a joke. I'm like, I
right.
would love to, however, I am booked. So it really happens like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing because I think it is a testament to like how you show up on set too. Um, because your work will precede you. They see the work, they're like, "Oh, this is amazing. This is beautiful. I need you on my set." But that means other people have experienced you on set and have been like, "Oh, it's good to work with her or it's easy to work with her. She's a great collaborator. She has the eye, she has the vision." And I think that's so important and definitely something to take away like as we're entering these sets and these spaces about like really being in service to our clients and then to our crew too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And don't like you said, the crew, and that doesn't mean your particular team. That means everyone
Yeah.
because you will get referrals from that other person. It's sometimes it's not even people on your own crew. It's somebody from another team, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I know she does that." Or he does that if there's any men, watching, but
Yeah.
it really does. It really happens like that.
So can you tell us like what does a typical day on set look like for you? Like
Ooh,
especially
child.
when you prepare for these long hours.
Well, if you're fortunate to be on a long-term show, you like once you lock in, you're there, right? But if you're like jumping from gig to gig to gig, as a freelancer, I mean, we're technically freelancers, even though we're in the union. I just want to make that clear. We are freelancers because we are not employed by the studio, if that makes sense. We're not studio employees. So we're still freelancers. So it's still having that mentality like, okay, where's my next gig?
Mm-hmm.
But um, wow, typical day. It really depends on your on your position. As a DP, they have prep weeks where they're prepping for an entire week for a particular episode, and then they shoot that episode the following week. Sometimes it's even months. So there's not like one way,
Yeah.
and there's not like there is a checklist. Say you know what the shot is going to be, so that like what equipment you're going to use for that, and just communicating with the different teams about lighting, wardrobe. So it really is a big team effort on the bigger sets. And on the smaller sets, you kind of just help each other. And so that's the difference between non-union and union, that I found. On union stuff, your job is your job, and nobody can do that job.
Yeah.
And on non-union, it's like, oh, I will help you move this couch, even though I'm a camera operator.
Exactly.
So it's like
And
It's
I'm realizing we throwing out a lot of terms, and maybe there are people in
yeah.
the audience who don't know like who these people are and what they do. Can you give us like a quick rundown, especially of like a cinematographer, a camera operator, and the DP?
Yeah, so in the camera union, the hierarchy is your DP, and under that would be your camera operator, steady cam operator. And on the same plane as that is your digital imaging tech, which is your DIT, who handles color grading on set.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that term is interchangeable on non-union sets, so I just want to be clarify what
Yeah.
a union DIT is, and don't call them a DIT, please. Don't call them DIT. It's DIT. Um, they handle the live color grading on set. And then you have your first AC, who is actually like the manager of the department and has the most hiring power, believe it or not. You
Can you
would
say what he stands for?
First AC stands for First Assistant Camera.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do more than pulling focus. And if people are like, what is pulling focus? Um, you're focusing the camera to be on a person or in the background. So when you see those beautiful transitions, there's somebody actually spinning the knob doing that.
Yeah.
And then you have your second AC, whose job is to make the first AC's job easier, like getting cameras set up, ordering equipment, all of that for what scene is going to be coming up. And they also, you see them doing the slate, marking the slate, laying marks on the ground for the actors. And then you have a loader, which I am currently classified as in Local 600. I am a loader. So
Mm-hmm.
I handle all of the media after it's shot, and I get that to the post-production team. I also would handle the equipment returns and just making sure we have our supplies, expendables. And if anybody knows what expendable is, a paper clip is an expendable. Tape is expendables. So stuff that is just used and can go away. So that's what a loader does. And then from there, you have a digital utility.
Mm-hmm.
And they are responsible for getting picture up to the director's monitor, to the producers, to hair and makeup. So when you see those monitors and you see the director looking, so that's what the digital utility is handling. So those are the official positions on the union side.
There we go. And I feel like sometimes I've heard folks say, like, oh, it's kind of silly that everybody just has this one job once you get to the union. But it truly is helpful for everyone to do their best in that one position. And I feel like it ultimately helps you create the best picture you can create.
Yes, when I got to a union set, just seeing how it all works, like I was like, oh, I can take off my accounting hat, or I could take off my grip hat and just focus on what I'm doing. Because you're dealing with thousands of dollars worth of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Me as a loader, like, so I have to make sure like that there's no scratch on the on the
Right.
lens. And if it is, I got to let the rental house know, like, okay, so we have this little issue, and then I have to make that report to the production, and it's like a whole thing. So as a loader, I'm not always on set. A lot of times I'm in the truck because I'm handling equipment, um, handling the media, which is like, for me to try to be on set and handling the media, or if you are a film loader, handling the actual film. I mean, you're in the dark room loading, these canisters that go onto the cameras. So each job is very important,
Very.
very important.
Very, very important. Which I want to get into like something more personal to you, like as you find yourself when you're in the cinematographer role.
Mhm.
Um, how do you, because it's like a background role. I mean, being in camera in general, it's like we're in the background, we're
Mhm.
photographing talent.
Yes.
How do you market yourself? How do you make yourself stand out, or like how you mentioned earlier, speak up for yourself and like
I
um
mean, that's the only that's really it. Like, yeah, you could throw images up and throw moving images up, but you really do have to talk for yourself and communicate with others and let them know what you're interested in, that you're available. Um, I mean, that's really it.
yeah. Are there any like particular self-care things you do to take care of yourself?
I like to sleep. I love naps. I am of the nap ministry. Uh, um,
Or
but besides that, I do love a good Korean day spa. So K spas for sure. And there are a plethora here in LA. So you just can spend the whole day there, getting a massage, getting your nails done, uh, going in the cold pool, the hot pool, jade room, the salt room, the hot
yes.
sauna, wet sauna, like just spending. They have restaurants in there. It's like a whole thing. So that's like one of my self care things.
Oh, I do love a day spa, and I really need to go more often because, like, an easy day, a quick day on a set can be 10 hours. Like, that's a
Yeah.
quick one. So,
Yes.
when you get those points where you're doing 14, 16-hour days, you really got to like schedule in time for you to
Yeah.
take care of yourself. So, I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah.
Um, but thinking about like how you said earlier, because of the strike, like, these gigs and things, they slow down. And I'm sure, like, I mean, we go on hiatus. So there are like slow periods for us,
Mhm.
especially as freelancers. How do you how do you find these other jobs? How do you fill your time? How do you find those courses to take? Where do you go?
Um, just being online, like Instagram, Twitter, Women in Media is another organization I'm a part of.
Mhm.
So when we conclude this, I'll be going taking my Steadicam training,
Yes.
um, just so I can add more, infinity stones to my bracelet. Um, but just staying on top of, you know, like different tech. So going to the rental houses and like playing with the gear. Um, and just meeting other people that aren't necessarily in the camera department, but like going out to networking events. Like I went to Rap Book, they had a freelancer appreciation, and just meeting people there, and like people that I don't normally see or meet. And I made connection with writers and directors and producers, and they're like, well, let's get together at the Soho House. And it's like, so it just really you just have to be out there, and it really is networking.
Networking is such a huge part of, I honestly, being a freelancer in any industry, but I feel like especially when we're talking about productions. I want to get into some of your work too as we continue to talk. So I'm gonna pull it up. And maybe while we talk about that, like, can you tell me about maybe some of the projects you're working on now, or if you can, because maybe the NDA
Yeah.
valid. Maybe like the first time you were on set and like what that was like for you.
Ooh, first time on set. So actually, I'll rewind because, like I said, I did start off as a photographer.
Yeah.
I would volunteer my time as a set photographer um, until I was comfortable enough to charge to be a set photographer. That way I could see how things worked. And those were on, of course, not the those were on non-union, shows, because again, I said I didn't know that I could be behind the camera
Right.
and operating until 2012. And yeah, that was my first music video right there with the Black Girls Rock. Uh, so yeah, I just took in. Oh, this is another thing I did just to see how things operated on set. I used to go to studio tapings of TV shows, of sitcoms.
Mm.
And I actually would get paid. I was a paid audience member, and I saw how they created some of these sitcoms are watched.
That's so genius. Like you're just watching the crew the whole time.
So I always stay connected to the industry in some form or fashion if it was slow.
That's so genius. I don't know how I didn't think about that. I should do that because I do also. I love the sitcom too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and another thing, I've done background work too, because you get to sit there, you're not always in front of the camera. So
Mhm.
you get to sit there and see how they're setting up. And I was like, okay. And then also network. Um, so
Yeah.
there's just different ways to stay connected. Yes, Denise,
Right.
girl, there's slow periods and, so you're getting paid to sit there and watch them put together a show.
So in that same way, like you've given us these tips and tricks, like what lessons did you learn that you carried over into the work that you do now?
Just how a big set operates. I mean, it really is different. And everybody is focused on their job in making the collaboration happen. And every single person's job is important. Like, because we're not spiders. We don't have 8 eyes. You know what I mean? So
Right.
you need somebody to have an eye on wardrobe. You need somebody to have an eye on hair. Somebody that, like, you need every single person.
And in that way, like, how have you seen the industry evolve? I mean, you've been doing this work for a long
Mhm.
time and you've been in different positions too.
Mhm.
And also like, do you like the way it's evolving? Do you feel confident in like what's happening now?
I do, because I see more people of color. Like, even if they're not on the big sets yet, I'm like, they're out there doing it. And I'm like, yes, like, you know, I'm like, I get hyped up, like just seeing more of us in the room or out there creating and sharing. So not just creating and it's sitting in the corner somewhere, but they're sharing it. So I am grateful for, the internet in that way. In that way, we can also build a community. But yeah, for a long time, it was like you were like, when I came up, I know for me personally, it was like I had the mentality where like I was afraid to share because then somebody would steal my idea. Like, but now I'm like, oh, like we doing this together, or I love your stuff. Like just getting out of that. Like now, because before we were scratching and crawling to like be the one on set, but now I'm like, man, I'm trying to put like, did you join the union yet? Like, if you don't join the union right now, so I can get you on this job, that's where I'm at now. I'm like, you don't come on. Like, I call him my little brother, but I went to a networking thing, last night, and it was like real low key, just hot dogs on a grill,
Mhm.
at a rental house, and I'm like, are you at the house? Because I knew he lived by. I was like, you need to come by right now, and just doing that.
Yeah, that's so important. I feel like it's happening in multiple industries where we're really telling each other that there's enough room for all of us. Because, like you said, there was a time where it was like, oh, I'm the one that made it in. I can't let nobody else in because they not letting nobody else in. And
Mhm.
I think that's the wrong mindset to have,
It
though.
is.
I understand why folks had it. Like, I get it.
Mhm.
But I'm really glad that mindsets are changing and that like I feel like it's feeling like this, like we're making room for
Yeah,
more
and it's
things.
and it's stressful being the only one on set. So I
Yeah.
want to bring more. Like, I need some people I could kiki with on set. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
because then that's the thing too, like, oh my gosh, especially camera department, like I feel like that's probably the last one that really started to see more and more Black people trickle in because I feel like we really came in like hair and makeup, which is beautiful and it's great, but like you're in another department and you watching them key and you're like, damn, I wish I could be over there. They're having such a good time. And like, I'm trying to figure out who I am in this department.
right. And it happens. It's like, we, how we are. We automatically just So it doesn't matter what department we're in, it's going to happen. But yeah, you want somebody in your own department to, to just talk about how things are going, and, you can't always do that. So that's why I'm like trying to get more people in as much as possible. I've always volunteered to like just show that there's a space and show them that they could do it. Or like I said, I don't know everything, but I'm going to share what I do know and let you know that it's possible.
Yeah.
So from Kids in the Spotlight to, Black Behind Camera to Diamond in the Raw, like all these, spaces for young girls in particular, to know that they could be in the filmmaking world too. And there's also Made in Her Image. But yeah.
All right. Are y'all writing them down? Because yet again, she's dropping more and more resources for y'all, which I so appreciate. And don't forget, like, if you missed it, this is recorded. You can go back to this part of the conversation in case you did miss it. But I really appreciate you doing that. I wanted to ask you also about, I feel like we've talked a lot about the process, the journey, where you have been, but I want to know more about where you are right now and maybe like new goals you've created for yourself right now.
Yeah. So on the union side, my goal is to re-rate to camera operator.
Okay.
Which it's scary because there is, a lot of politics, and it's like you can get stuck in one position for, like, I know career first ACs that have done it for 20 plus years. And honestly, your girl don't have that much time. So
hold on now. Don't be trying to
look, I am not a spring chicken. So
we can't tell by the skin and the hair, the glow.
So that is like what I'm focusing on currently. So that's why I'm, doing Steadicam training and handheld lessons and all of that. Just, not losing sight of my initial goal which is to be operating the camera or even directing how the camera set's going to work. So just a caveat, a DP on set, on a union set, does not touch the camera. So that is like one of the major differences on union set. So you have the camera operator. The DP is the one that is like, okay, we're gonna do this. So I don't want to do that just yet on the union side, because it's more political and all of that other stuff. I still want to play. I still feel like I want you to see how I see things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still have any mentors or some folks you're looking up to right now?
Yeah, my girl Michelle Clementine, actually Michelle Crenshaw, Kira Kelly. Like, there's a lot of Black women in our space, but I have to give a big ups to my girl Michelle Clementine, who has put me on like to some stuff because she does know my goals. So I cam off on Hair Tales because I was covering her. And so I got to operate on Hair Tales. So I'm like, wait, I'm on Hulu and OWN and like what? So
yes.
Yeah. So she's always taking care of me.
I love that. Shout out to the Michelles. So we played a part of your reel. How often do you update your reel, or how often should somebody update their reel?
Man, I know I need to update my reel. But see, so that's the thing. I've been on these long jobs. Like my last long show was 9 months, and I didn't really get to create. And so that's why I'm like, the writer's strike, it's like I get to take a step back. I have time to, play with new cameras. There's, play with filters and know like, hey, if something does come up, or if I meet somebody, like how I can when I work on set, I call it play. So what my playground is going to look like, what if I'm gonna bring a shovel, if I'm gonna bring a sand pail, you know what I mean? Like I'll know in that instance. So that's what I'm currently doing now. Like, so if there's anybody that wants to shoot something,
Hey, in the chat, okay? You guys. No, actually, how should somebody get in contact with you? Do you prefer DM?
they can DM me or they could just hit me up via email as well or my website. Email is Naoe@naoepics.com. And Naoe Pics everywhere. Like I keep it simple, y'all.
There you go.
But yeah, Naoe Pics on IG, TikTok. I'm not on the TikTok. I'm on TikTok to look at things. So I'm not there yet, but I am Naoe Pics on all social media.
There you go. Okay, so y'all heard it. That's how y'all know how to get in contact. To jump back to the reels, can you give advice on like what makes a good reel for somebody starting off?
Well, we have a short attention spans. We have the lifespan of a gnat. So keep them short. Keep them short and probably. So like I know I need to redo mine. But try to keep it under a minute. Because they're really not gonna watch the whole thing. Like
right.
So keep it short, keep it poppy, and get the first few images that you are proud of on the first part of the video.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's one of my goals is to update mine. It's a never ending cycle, you know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to creating and updating my reel.
Which I mean, that's what we want it to be, that never ending cycle, because that means you're still working and you're constantly creating. And so it's good to update as frequently as you can.
Yes.
But what a blessing to be like, oh, I'm just too busy to update the reel. Come on. We love it. I want to talk just a little bit more about some of the organizations you mentioned, because some of them you said are geared towards young girls or kids. Like you said you're on a board for one. Is there any other ways like you support the young girls or kids that want to be in film, or particular the camera department?
I guess it's just get involved. There's so many out there, and I'm trying to tap into as many as I can. I just want to let them know, like, because I just want to give back what I didn't have. I don't like it shouldn't be a struggle. Like, if you want to do something, you should be able to do it. Like Jessie was saying yesterday, she just taps into her community as well. It's like, oh, you want to cook? Let me hit my girl up and we'll do this cooking class or whatever it is that her daughter wants to do. So it's the same thing, because my kids are not interested in this industry at all. So so I just want to pour into the little Naoe. Like it shouldn't have taken me into my late 30s, late 40s to know that there was actually a union or how things operate. You know what I mean? It really shouldn't. That's some serious gatekeeping. You know what I mean? And it does not need to be that way. I mean, there's so many stories to tell. And shout out to the Issa Rays and the Janine Daniels, and for just doing stuff on our own, and just because I got to give a shout out to Janine, because I've DP'd her stuff, and now she's a writer on Snowfall and all these other shows. So it's just play with your community, really, really. And so I just want to just reach back and just usher them in as much as possible. So that's my goal. So whichever organization pops up or is still around, or I'm there. If I have the time, I'm there.
I love it. And you mentioned UDP for so many people. How, what's the balance look like for you, or how do you keep your own artistic vision when you're helping other people create their projects?
that's the thing. It's like I think we tap into each other. And that's why I said I'm not ready to go on the union side, because you're dealing with producers, you're dealing with, like,
Right.
it's more like it's a whole thing. So that's why I was like, I ain't ready for that. Like, I'll operate the camera, but it's a totally different ball game than on these independent, you know, sets,
Yeah.
because it's more collaborative. And it's like, oh, you got an idea? I got this idea. All right, well, let's try it this way. Okay, we'll try it this way too. It's really like playing, so that's the part I love. And it's like nobody gets shot down. Um, and we just tap into each other, and make something beautiful. So yeah.
I wanted to shout out Nadina Granville while you were talking. They said, I would love a portfolio review from you. So they're going to reach out to you in your DM. I think they knew Michelle too, or maybe met Michelle. So that's really beautiful. I love the connection. And we have a bunch of people going, yes, yes, like community is everything. I love this. So I just want to shout out everybody in the chat that is like sending you a lot of love right now.
Thanks.
Um, and so I would also love to know, what can we expect from you? Like, are you having any drops coming soon that you're like, oh, yes, this needs to be in the highlight reel?
Um, I'm really like taking it day by day.
Yeah.
And like I said, going to networking events, just getting out the house, because remember I told you I'm part of that nap ministry. So I do have to force myself to network, because your girl loves a good nap. And I'm also an introvert. Believe it or not, I am an introvert. So once I'm outside for a bit, I will retreat for a while. So I really have to be like, okay, I'm outside. Let me go to this event. All right, let me go here. All right, let me log in. Like, I really have to be, because again, the community is how you get your work. So,
Yeah.
and besides that, we got some dope people in the community, and it's all love, so we keep keying between jobs. So,
That part.
yes.
I think on one end, in some ways, I feel like, at least in my early days, it was hard for me to understand who to reach out to, how to reach out to them, or like even just having the confidence. Like you said, you're an introvert, being like trying to put on my extrovert face that day. Do you have any tips for the younger folks who are, or the folks that are just entering in, um, about how to put that game face on, how to find that confidence and put yourself out there like that?
For me, I make it more personal. Like, I want to get to know the person. Like, Thursday, I was having lunch with a DP, and we were just talking about his travels. And I was like, wow, like, I'm mad that lunch is over, because now I can't, like, I want to, it just makes me want to tap in more. So, like, more one on one, and just like, hey, you look familiar. Because, I mean, social media, everybody looks familiar, right?
Yeah.
So, I just go, I'm like, actually, you do look familiar. Have we met before, or have we worked on something? Like, you just never know, because sometimes these sets are so big, you're just flying by people. Um, so I just have to be real present and in the moment. And, like, yeah, that's how it works for me.
I
And
love,
just
and
make it come.
you were
Yeah.
in the audience yesterday too, and I feel like that was another through line, where it's like so much about being a creative is also being mindful and practicing being present. Um, and like you're saying here today, like it can help you when you're networking, when you're trying to break out of that introversion shell, to be like, okay, I know I should speak to these people because they're a part of my community and I want to be a part of this community. So I
Mhm.
love that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Um, and then really quickly, because I know we're running down on time, but you mentioned that you're a mother. So I would love just even your insight on like how
Mhm.
you balance being on sets, especially those long hours, and being a mother and being yourself, like having your own personal life.
Well, fortunately, I am a mother of adult children. So
Yay.
that was also part of my journey, in being independent for a while, because I couldn't do 65 hours as a single mom. You
Right.
know what I mean? And so that's part of the industry that I think needs to change. Well, I know needs to change, because that shouldn't be a barrier to somebody, working and creating. Um, yeah, I couldn't do it, 65 hours a week. So I big up the women that do camera operating pregnant, and then they, take some time off, because it is a lot. So I was fortunate enough to do it while I was still independent, and I could say yes and no to certain things. And I had my parents at the time to help out. So if I did have to go somewhere, a lot of the stuff I did was in the club, because look, I love music, so that was also how I combined things. I would shoot, concerts and stuff like that. So a lot of stuff was at night while they were asleep. So that's how I navigated at that point as a photographer. But I'm now a grandmother, and my grandkids feel it. They're like, "Grandma, where are you at now?" And I'm like, "I'm on set, like I'm at work." So
Oh, that is so cute.
I couldn't imagine with littles. I couldn't. So I like that's in the back of my head. So I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna make it happen. But to make it to where women can work on sets and not have to worry about where their children are. So
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do. And actually, I see Elsie in the chat right here. She said, "Facts, kudos to all the working moms because it's hard." And I know Elsie has a podcast actually called Photo Mama Podcast for those photographers and moms who are trying to figure out the balance of that. So y'all make sure y'all download and listen to that. Um, and I really appreciate you saying that. Which really quickly, I'm wondering, like, do your grandkids know what you do? Like, are they interested? I know you said your kids didn't want no parts, but like, are your grandpa?
there's they're still like don't know. They just know I'm gone. just, uh, they just know I'm on FaceTime with them, and because I got to sneak away on the truck, and I'm like, I'm all set, baby.
Oh,
So yeah, so they'll see the inside of the truck, but I don't do it when I'm actually on set, so they don't get to see all the workings of all of that. But they don't have a clear understanding yet. They just know that grandma's gone.
I was just about to say, did you say grandma?
I
Come
did.
on, that is too cute. I might have to write that one down. That is too cute.
Thank you.
Oh, and then we have another shout out from Amari. I'd love for you to see that says Naoe is amazing. When I met her, she was so open and welcoming to share and pass knowledge. Beautiful example of how we build community in this industry. That is so
Oh,
beautiful. Shout out to Amari because she's also super amazing. Um, and like it's like the same feeling of alignment, these little touch tones that keep coming up about how Black women just continue to build community and naturally pass down this knowledge. I think it's so beautiful. Like, I'm sure nobody has to ask you any of the questions, even though I'm here asking you. It seems like you just offer. And I love that about this community, especially about Black women photographers in particular. So I'm so grateful to have you here. And clearly the whole chat is too. Look, Magrika says, I'm trying to bring all my people with me.
yes.
This is so cute. People snapping their fingers. So yes, I am so grateful to have you here. We are so grateful to have you here. And thank you so much. Where can people find you again if you want to shout out your website or
Yeah.
your
So
handle?
I am the OA Pics everywhere. So website, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever comes up later. Um, I will always be my OA Pics. So,
There you go. So make sure y'all hit her up in case you need any help, any resources, in case you missed any of the resources she mentioned earlier. And like that portfolio review, like Nadina said earlier. And just before we go, I want to shout out again to our sponsors, Getty Images, who is providing free portfolio reviews for us, and to Adobe, who's not only sponsoring the event, but also sponsoring our giveaway. So please use the hashtag BWP Summit to share your experience for one, and just like any pictures or videos you're taking, let people know you're here, you're in the audience, you're in the chat, and that you're loving on all the speakers that we have. So again, that hashtag is BWP Summit. You can use that on Twitter or your IG stories, and we'll retweet y'all. We'll share it. We'll let people know that y'all are here with us. So we'll be back soon with our next speaker. Again, thank you so much, Naoe. Have a good one, y'all. See y'all soon.
Bye.